Okay, we are back with part two of The Tomb of Sarah by F.G. Loring. I don't know if I said that yet. I probably should have said the author, but I'm saying it now. July 10th, 10:15 p.m. Again, the same howling at sunset, the same fog enveloping the church, and at 10 o'clock, the same great beast slipping silently out into the open country. I must get the rector's help and watch for its return, but precautions we must take, for if things are as I believe, we take our lives in our hand, then we venture out into the night to waylay the vampire. Why not admit it at once? For that the beast I have seen is the vampire of that evil thing in the tomb I can have no reasonable doubt. Not yet come to its full strength, thank heaven, after the starvation of nearly 2 centuries. For at present it can only maraud as a wolf apparently. But in a day or two, when full power returns, that dreadful woman in new strength and beauty will be able to leave her refuge. Then it would not be sheep merely that would satisfy her disgusting lust for blood, but victims that would yield their life-blood without a murmur to her caressing touch, victims that, dying of her foul embrace, themselves must become vampires in their turn to prey on others. Mercifully, my knowledge gives me a safeguard, for that little piece of mortar that I rescued today from the tomb contains a portion of the sacred host, and who holds it, humbly and firmly believing in its virtue, may pass safely through such an ordeal as I intend to submit myself and the rector to tonight. 12:30 p.m. Our adventure is over for the present, and we are back safe. After writing the last entry recorded above, I went off to find Grant and tell him that the marauder was out on the prowl again. But Grant, I said, before we start out tonight, I must insist that you will let me prosecute this affair in my own way. You must promise to put yourself completely under my orders without asking any questions as to the why and wherefore. After a little demur and some excusable chaff on his part at the serious view I was taking of what he called a dog hunt, he gave me his promise. I then told him that we were to watch tonight and try and track the mysterious beast, but not to interfere with it in any way. I think, in spite of his jest, that I impressed him with the fact that there might be, after all, good reason for my precautions. It was just after 11 when we stepped out into the still night. For first move was to try and penetrate the dense fog round the church, and there was something so chilly about it, and a faint smell so disgustingly rank and loathsome, that neither our nerves nor our stomachs were proof against it. Instead, we stationed ourselves in the dark shadow of a yew tree and commanded a good view of the wicket entrance to the churchyard. At midnight, the howling of the dog began again, and in a few minutes we saw a large gray shape with green eyes shining like lamps shamble swiftly toward the path, down the path towards us. Stop it! The rector started forward, but I laid a firm hand upon his arm and whispered a warning, "Remember." Then we both stood very still and watched as the great beast cantered swiftly by. It was real enough, for we could hear the clicking of its nails on the stone flags. It passed within a few yards of us, and seemed to be nothing more nor less than a great gray wolf, thin and gaunt, with bristling hair and dripping jaws. It stopped where the mist commenced and turned round. It was truly a horrible sight, and made one's blood run cold. The eyes burnt like fires. The upper lip was gnarling and raised, growling the great canine teeth, while round the mouth clung and dripped a dark-colored froth. It raised its head and gave tongue to its long, wailing howl, which was answered from afar by the village dogs. After standing For a few moments it returned and disappeared into the thickest part of the fog. Very shortly afterward the atmosphere began to clear, and within 10 minutes the mist was all gone. The dogs in the village were silent, and the night seemed to resume its normal aspect. We examined the spot where the beast had been standing, and found plainly enough upon the stone flags dark spots of froth and saliva. From what it sounds to me, is she's not a vampire, maybe like a wolf, like a werewolf. Doesn't really sound like a vampire. It just sounds like she's turning into a wolf at night, is why she comes back with blood on her mouth, and she looks better and better each time. Well, Rector, I said, will you admit now, in view of the things you have seen today, in consideration of the legend, the woman in the tomb, the fog, the howling dogs, and last but not least, the mysterious beast you have seen so close, that there is something not quite normal in it all? Will you put yourself unreservedly in my hands and help me, whatever I may do, to first make assurance doubly sure, and finally take the necessary steps for putting an end to this horror of the night? I saw that the uncanny influence of the night was strong upon him, and wished to impress it as much as possible. Needs must, he replied, when the devil drives, and in the face of what I have seen, I must believe that some unholy forces are at work. Yet how can they work in the sacred precincts of a church? Shall we not call rather upon heaven to assist us in our need? Grant, I said solemnly, that we must do, each in his own way. God helps those who help themselves, and by his help, in the light of my knowledge, we must fight and battle for him and the poor lost soul within. We then returned to the rectory and to our rooms, though I have sat up to write this account while the scene is fresh in my mind. July 11th. Found the workmen again very much disturbed in their minds, and full of a strange dog that had been seen during the night by several people who had hunted it. Farmer Stotman, who had been watching his sheep, the same flock that had been raided the night before, had surprised it over a fresh carcass and tried to drive it off, but its size and fierceness so alarmed him that he had beaten a hasty retreat for a gun. When he returned, the animal was gone, though he found the 3 more sheep from his flock were dead and torn. The Saratoon was moved today to its new position, and it was a long, heavy business, and there was not time to replace the covering slab. For this I was glad, as in the prosaic light of the day the rector almost disbelieves the event of the night, and it prepared to think everything to have been magnified and distorted by our imagination. As, however, I could not possibly proceed with my war of extermination against this foul thing without assistance, and as there is nobody else I can rely upon, I appealed to him for one more night, to convince him that it was no delusion, but a ghastly, horrible truth, which must be fought and conquered for our own sakes, as well as that of all those living in the neighborhood. Put yourself in my hands, Rector, I said, for tonight at least. Let us take the precautions which my study of the subject tells me are the right ones. Tonight you and I must watch in the church, and I feel assured that tomorrow you will be as convinced as I am, and be equally prepared to take those awful steps which I know to be proper. And I must warn you that we shall find a more startling change in the body lying there than you noticed yesterday. My words came true, for on raising the wooden cover once more, the rank stench of a slaughterhouse arose, making us feel positively sick. There lay the vampire, but how changed from the starved and shrunken corpse we saw 2 days ago for the first time. The wrinkles had almost disappeared, the flesh was firm and full, the crimson lips grinned horribly over the long pointed teeth, and a distinct smear of blood had trickled down one corner of the mouth. We set our teeth, however, and hardened our hearts. Then we placed the cover and put what we had collected into a safe place in the vestry. Yet even now Grant could not believe that there was any real or pressuring danger or pressing danger concealed in that awful tomb, as he raised strenuous objections to any apparent desecration of the body without further proof. This he shall have tonight. God grant that I may not taking too much on myself. If there is any truth in old legends, it would be easy enough to destroy the vampire now, but Grant will not have it. I hope for the best of this night's work, but the danger is waiting. The danger in waiting is very great. 6 p.m. I have prepared everything, the sharp knives, the pointed stake, fresh garlic, and the wild dog roses. All these I have taken and concealed in the vestry, where we can get at them when our solemn vigil commences, if either or both of us die with our fearful task undone. Let those reading my record see that this is done. I lay it upon them as a solemn obligation that the vampire be pierced through the heart with the stake, then let the burial service be read over the poor clay, at least released from its doom. Thus shall the vampire cease to be, and a lost soul rest. So they're going to try and kill her even further, because she's clearly not dead, and she's getting stronger to come back to life. We'll be back for the next part. Hopefully I would only have maybe 1 or 2 more parts to this, because this is quite a long story too. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button, and don't forget to click the little notification bell at the bottom, or else you're going to miss out on the rest of the story, which I actually find this one very interesting. But then again, I find mythology a lot interesting than other things. So I hope you guys come back to hear what the rest of the story is.